Yeah, talk about naive. Typical New Zealander, like everything bites you, everything, barks at you, everything attacks you. And then, I built a new set of skills. So I had to improvise as I went. I mean, I had a set structure, I had a plan, but I didn't assume it was going to go to that plan because I knew things were going to get thrown at me, and I had to sort of, bring out the next idea or adapt or make adjustments to when I'm having a conversation to the people in the pub or the kids on the street about what the hell I was up to, why I was there, yeah.
I guess this conversation, I'm having ideas as you speak to me because you speak about it so well, and my brain keeps bringing it back to this blog, theme on power, and the excellent article that has already been supplied, and obviously the video footage and the images. And I'm just thinking perhaps instead of, asking you to write more about it in relation to power, we could perhaps just use this conversation right now. I'm recording it, by the way.
Well, that's great. Well, that's
halfway through, I'm like, I need to record this. And I'm thinking, maybe if we just keep talking about it, and because you supplied information on that particular project, maybe use that as like your central point. But maybe you could speak to, I guess, in terms of power, how you've come into this community in Australia and you've had to adapt and, I guess, learn from the community too. So I guess that's a form of empowerment for the community you're working with. Maybe are you able to elaborate on that as well?
Well, it's just making sure that you're listening to everyone, every conversation. It doesn't matter if it's the taxi driver or the baker in the bakery or someone in the car park. And like I said, I actually was listening to the interview the other day, and I was actually, and I'm not being funny, but I was actually quite blown away by what I'd been talking about, how I actually went into the community and how I went about it. But I think the key one is that, and it is related to my upbringing, is knowing who you are. And I know I am because I know my background, because it's the norm, like who your father, mother, and who the descendants are, and the historical side. So all I've done is applied the same approach going into a new environment. When you go to the other side of the world, you want to understand the history, then you want to understand who the people are, and then sort of get some sort of gauge of who these people are, rather than relying on this media, just putting yourself out there, and basically just listening. I think it's actually quite a key to it. And then, trying to figure out ways to just, I was even talking to parents I don't even know, some of these kids, and they had huge social issues, but I couldn't take them on because that was the key, to be careful. We don't, and I know, there's my own experience, I went over the line, but I wanted to know what was actually why was the community self-destructing, or where did it all start? And so what happened is I started to talk to people, and they were feeding me, like especially the elders, the older ones. So I went to old people's meetings where they were keeping photos of, how it used to be in Eads, and that's just like an example. And then I looked at it, talked to them about it, and they talked about, great memory. And then they talked about the self-destruction of the community when it started to fall apart.
Yeah.
And that's when and I thought, okay, that's probably where it actually started. And then I talked to the Aboriginal community, the Aotearoa community, again, from their perspective. So getting all these different perspectives, you're almost coming in as like an anthropologist, basically taking no sides, but just listening, and then you go home and consolidate how we can actually solve this problem. Yeah. Well, not solve the problem, but just give them vehicles. And I think vehicles are actually the best thing to use. And when I talk about vehicles, I was talking about the art stations. And I was talking about doing public talks, and I was talking workshops. And then, okay, this is probably my advantage, but I do have a boxing background and a rugby background, and so sports is the norm. So that's another way to not infiltrate, but go into the community and just do your normal training, what you normally do, and they all look at you twice thinking, okay, why is he coming to training? But at the same time, you get to know the gossip, what's going on in the community. And I think that's I went a long way about it, but then I thought it was actually worth investing in the community because I was doing it out of conviction because of things that actually happened mentally on the journey when I met that young kid who was only 8, who was on something that was actually crazy, and that actually I had to go home and get some help.
Yeah.
And again, I put that in my tool bag, to watch out for that, carry on again, and then picking up those tools is really important as part of my experience, like building my experience. I mean, I'm very, very confident now where I can walk into a community and know how to adapt and just readjust. But again, it's that yearning to learn about what's going on, or the history. And it does help because I was actually really surprised a lot of people didn't know the history of that community or did not know any historical history going further before the history was when the community was developed.
Right.
So that actually helps, that starts the conversation. Oh, did you know there was a rock drawing down in this cave? Or did you know about the original community that was living here? And then they start, no, I didn't. And that's where the conversation can start. And it's a healthy thing, I have to say, just to mentally give them a sense of like, what's this environment all about? And it is a beautiful environment, don't get me wrong. That was the key to it because I fell in love with the place because it was it was like a paradise, but they couldn't see it. And it was easy for me as an outsider to come in and observe, like fly around like a bird and just walk around in the bush and naively watch out for snakes. Just all those typical Kiwi naive stuff, but at the same time, it does come an advantage when you know how you can see the problems from the outside. It's so much easier. So I think for artists, actually can empower a lot of people. But how do you empower people that are actually really down? Or how do you empower communities just like fraught with drugs and domestic violence? And I'm a big believer in the whole art, the art approach, but I'm talking about, and depending on your background, how we were brought up, and those social skills. So those social skills are really important to build up that trust with the community.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way you can, live with the community, eat with the community, talk to the community, but then have a bit of understanding of the history behind it.
And do you think you keep mentioning that these experiences and moments of adaptation allow for you to add to your skill set? But I was wondering if when you come into a community and like you were saying, you were teaching some of the kids about the history and the narratives of their own area. Obviously, when they're listening and hearing you tell these stories, they're like taking it in, and then perhaps after you leave, you're empowering them to continue that tradition.
It's not continued. It's up to them at the end of the day whether they want to know it, and I'm not forcing it. And I use like boxing or the when we're doing the DJing or when we're doing the wood cutting or the cutting up of the metal, just cleaning up. So I'm not sitting them down and I'm doing this big lecture. What I'm doing is like what we're doing right now. So I might have 5 of these kids in front of me, and I'll just unconsciously talk about it. Just like, well, did you know such and such about the bull cave down the road, blah blah blah, or the history behind the wool wash? Yeah, and they say, oh yeah, my auntie used to go down there all the time, and she was telling me all about it when she was a kid, and there's platypuses apparently live down there, and that's so having those little cues or knowing when to use it, and not doing I always call it the talking down to the kids because they just here he goes again. There's another ranter. But if you create situations, and I think this is the beauty of art, it actually does empower people. If you create spaces where they're unconscious, where they're making mark making, I call it mark making. It doesn't matter if it's a crappy piece or if they call it a crappy piece. What they are doing is unconsciously releasing a whole lot of stuff that I don't know about, but it's just coming up between the conversation between another student, or when we're playing the guitar, or when we're cleaning up, or when we're cutting the stuff down there at the car park. So I guess that process, not the finish, the process was really important. Creating those vehicles, I mean, that was the wonderful thing about that transformer. It did empower a lot of, not just the kids or It empowered a lot of people because it got them all talking, and that's why I think that's most important. If you can create a conversation amongst the community, I did get a lot of, and it's not a feel good story. It's like, thank God, we always get these projects where they just come in here and then they just bugger off.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, we own something, and we get to, and then I got talked about the reason why I was taking the cars out because you guys told me to. Because and he said, well, what the hell are you going to do with them? And then, you know what I mean? You had that discussion. And even though I know it's controversial to go to the pub, but at the same time, it's actually a meeting place. It's no different in France or Germany. You go to a place to meet and converse with the locals. I mean, that's the only opportunity. If that's the place where you got to meet, then we'll meet there. If that means going to boxing and meeting there, well, I'll meet there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was ridiculous. But then at the same time, you got to share conversation. And I think that like I said, process, that's really important. And actually, some of the kids from that workshop from Transformer, they're in the army. I keep in contact with their mum. They say, oh, he's doing really well, blah, blah, blah. He's in his first, 3 months of training. Yeah, he's just going through the recruitment bit in Canberra. So that's those little things. You can't, I can't change the whole community.
No.
But I can change some people and actually help them out.
Yeah. And can I just ask out of curiosity, like, you come into a community such as Ed's as an artist, but then there's this idea of legacy where, you have those mums updating you about their sons or daughters, and and you're keeping up contact with them and communication with them.
Yeah.
Can I ask a really maybe silly question, but do you still consider yourself an artist in that role, or are you just being a human?
I'm just being a human.
Yeah, right.
Adopted as a uncle, brother, dad, whatever. They call you uncle over there, and that's nothing new to us. And I didn't really don't really care. I'm just trying to be a good human being because there's enough crap going on in this world, and so if it can help somebody else out, that's cool. If this is what art does, and I love that saying from the Ed's headmaster. If this is what art's all about, I want this.
Right.
From students. How inspiring is that?
Totally.
Not an art critic said it, or not somebody else said it. It's a real person, a human being who's responsible for all these kids, and he's